Greetings, everyone. This mini lesson is on a topic called research mining. Now, I can't promise that you will find specific information on mining in any one of the course resources or course text, or even if you search online. But I wanted to share with you this method that I've come to understand over the years, and it may be helpful as you do all types of research. So for this video, I'm going to talk about mining sources, and I'm going to use the topic that I am currently researching and have been researching for a long time. My topic is educational literacy and access to it. So one of the things that I found that I need to learn more about is this thing called the education gap. And I'm just going to start here with the internet. So where I am right now in my research, I want to find something specifically about the history of this idea, this thing called the education gap. So I just literally typed that into my Google search, the history of education gap. And I'm not being particularly picky at this moment because I just want to see what's out there. All right, so this first item here, I've already looked at it and read it a couple of times, so I like it, so I want to go back to it. And it's helpful for me to talk to you about mining one source to get to other sources. So I'm going to open this, hopefully in a new link. And it opens up here in this new tab. Now I have a couple of tabs open because when I sit down to do mining, I want to have like my list of sources. So I have my working bibliography open. So if I find something, I can add to it. My search box here, if I were in the library searching, I would have that tab open. And then I also have EasyBib because I use EasyBib to collect information about sources that I might use later. And EasyBib is a quick way of getting the bibliographical information for sources, and I can come back later and clean that up. So I just wanted to explain why I have these different tabs open. Okay, so I opened this article in a new tab. Let's go look at it. And as I told you already, I've seen this a couple of times and I've added it to my resources. So I'm familiar with this. And it's not so much that this particular article is going to be helpful for the type of research I'm doing, because I need to have more academic research resources. More academic resources, but this gets me to more academic resources and other sources written by what we might call, specialists or experts. So one thing I want to just go through and show you and tell you some of the things that I do is, depending on what kind of device I'm on, I will have the device read the article to me because that's a little bit faster and it helps me get a quick overview. So I'm currently right now on my an Apple computer, so I kind of have it set and I can just go ahead and tell it to start speaking, and I'll do that just for demonstration purposes.
This summer marks the 50th anniversary of one of the most influential education research reports ever released. The report, colloquially known as the Coleman Report after its lead author James S. Coleman, unveiled two major surprises. First, it revealed an enormous achievement gap between America's Black and white students. Second, it suggested that the gap arose largely from differences among families.
So I like this feature. I don't want the whole document to read it to me, but this is my first example of mining. I want to mine this for ideas. So I want to go and see what kind of ideas are in this document that I might note. So making or having the document read to me in sections allows me to free up my brain to just pay attention to what's being read and perhaps take notes. The first thing I've taken note of is that there is this report. Now, I don't need to read the document fully or have it read to me to find that out, because on this website, they have highlighted these additional resources. So they haven't just said, hey, here is this report, but they've given us a live link to it. So this is the next level of mining. After ideas, I can say, oh, this source, this article that I'm looking at right now actually references other research. So the author, who is this? Heather Hill, in her article, she incorporates research from other documents. And I can use that research to say, oh, I might want to look at this item. And I do, because this is a report. So it's probably a study and it's probably this big, humongous thing. So I am going to mine this source for the Coleman report. And since there's a link, it's really easy. So I can just click on that and hopefully see where it takes me. And it takes me to a PDF version of this original document that was written in like 1966, publication date, 1966. So I know, since I'm looking at the history, I'm like, this is probably good. So I would go ahead and download or print or give myself a direct link to this additional piece of research that I got to from using this mining technique. So I've actually already done that because this is a really good historical document. And I'll come back and look at that and look at it later. So I'm going to go back to my article. And then you can continue to do that same thing. So since I know this article does include hyperlinks, I could, and I just want to let you know, this is like my fourth time reading this document, not the first time, but I can go through them like, oh, look, there's another hyperlink text. So for me, I would reread this part so I can get the context here. And like, do I want that document? But if I did, I'll do the same thing. I'm actually going to open that in the new window. And then I can go see what that is all about. I'm like, oh, I may have to come back and look at this later, since this leads me to a website, and it doesn't take me specifically, I think, to this large scale study. It just tells me that there was a large scale study, and it was supposedly done a few years before the Coleman report. So I would have to poke around this source a little bit to actually find this large scale study if I wanted to see it. So right now, this mining technique has given me one really good potential additional document, right? The Coleman report, and then some secondary, perhaps one secondary document. And so I'll do that same thing to continue to reread. Again, this is not my first read. I read it the first time, or I had my computer read it to me and I took notes. The second time around, I want to come back and look for items that may be helpful, other sources. So I am going to go through again, see if I see any other hyperlinks. I know there is at least one other one. Oh, there are two of them. So again, this section here, this paragraph here, it contains two additional hyperlinks. So I'm like, this is this author citing their sources. So what I like about things that are hyperlinked is that it's not static. I can go ahead and open, and now you see across the top, I have these two additional resources. And so I can match those resources that this author uses with my notes and with what I am actually doing research on. So these may or may not be helpful for me because I'm not writing the same thing as Heather Hill, but I have my own topic and these may be helpful. So you always want to consider how the sources were used in the original document that you are mining, and then go and see how they may help you. So let's see. If you're looking at a document that doesn't have hyperlinks, which is going to happen quite often, there are other ways that you can still mine the source you're looking at for their additional sources. So I'm going to scroll to the bottom here for that example. I think she may have what I need, what I'm looking for here. No, she doesn't. So the other thing, and I understand why. So I scroll to the bottom because I'm looking for a list of works cited, a works cited page, or a reference page. Some online articles will include that, but this one doesn't, because I believe the author is relying on, and for the modality that her article is being read, it makes sense, hyperlinks in the text. So if there isn't a list of citations at the end and there are no hyperlinks, the other thing you may find, the other thing you will find, if there are no hyperlinks, is you will just simply find in-text citations. As I scroll back up, I just want to find one of my, so examples that did have a hyperlink. So sometimes, and when you're just reading articles that are not online or hyperlinks, you will only get the citation. So this is an in-text citation. It tells us that psychologists did a large-scale study using, it was called Project Talent. So I would then have to take this information and then go do a library search or even talk to a librarian and say, hey, I'm looking for this study that's mentioned in this article, and it's called Project Talent. So that is another way. You just take the in-text citations, and often they will name things, like the Coleman report is named for us. And then we're like, okay, let me go look that up, that specific thing. My last point here about mining is how the article or the document you're looking at, how that document references its own research. So are they using summary or paraphrase or direct quotes? And if they do, are they telling us where that information came from? So then we can go and find that information ourselves. So I'm going to stick with this direct quote here as my example. So in this, the author, Heather Hill, has used a direct quote from, we can assume, is the Coleman report, because she introduces it and says, as Coleman, who's the author of that report, noted midway through the report, and then we get the direct quote. So because I am really interested in the history of this topic of the education gap, I don't want to just rely on the direct quote. I could take this direct quote and say, as quoted by Hill in their article, and then I can take this quote. But I actually want to do the research myself because I want to see where and what else does Coleman say about the education gap, because that's my research. So I would go to the Coleman report, and she didn't tell us exactly what page, but I know it's somewhere midway through. But I would go to the Coleman report and see if I can find this direct quote. Let's go. And then because while this direct quote may not fit what I want, there may be some other information around it that would be more suitable for me in my research. So that is yet another way how you can mine one source for additional research, that then you go and do the research yourself instead of just like going and looking for everything at once. So I found a really good source here in this article, which I will cite, but because I want to show a diversity of perspectives on my topic, I will also go and look at the Coleman report. And because the Coleman report is like the findings of research, it probably has nice sections that I could look at, like a summary or results. So I may not, and I will not be reading 749 pages. No, I won't, but I don't have to be afraid of it because reports are usually nice and sectioned up. And then these other sources that he'll use in their article, I might have to come back and look at and then decide if I want to keep them or not. So that's my overall like mining of sources. So if you have additional sources you can find. So here's the other thing that I do to keep track. As I told you, I already downloaded and saved this particular one. But these ones, since I'm not sure, I'm just going to copy the links to them. And I'm going to go to my working bibliography for this task. And I already added Hills, because this is the article that I actually, started by mining. So I already added this to my working bibliography. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a comment section for the other sources. So this is what I mined from this source. So I got the project one. I'm going to go back and take each of those websites for purposes of this video. I'm just adding them, but I will actually do it slightly different. And I'm going to definitely add the Coleman report. All right, I have that. And remind myself that I downloaded it. But I want a little more descriptors for what these are. So this was Project Talent, right? And this one was the high school. I have to go back. But hopefully you get the gist. I'm not just going to put those websites there without any kind of descriptor, because then I won't remember what they actually are. So I want to make sure that I put that descriptor in there. And I'm not going to find this because I don't want this video to be extremely long, but hopefully you get my, you get what I'm doing here. So I'm just going to put the high school. Right. And then the other one was the early childhood source. So now I know that from this one source, I was able to mine 4 other potential sources. And that's the gist of this video. I want to do a short recap, and recap includes, yes, you mine for specific sources, but you can also mine for cited material that the author used, like the quote, but I want to go back to the original to read that quote in context. And that's because as we look at how Hill in her article, she takes that quote so it can fit the context of her topic and what she is researching. Sorry, I don't mean to make people dizzy here. There we go. So this quoted material is taken from the original, but it's to fit the research question, the research topic that this author is talking about. So that's why when mining, I want to consider what the original quoted material or summarized or paraphrased material, what that looked like in the original. And then I'll go back to the original for that. So when you're mining for actual content, you don't want to just lift it and use it. You should go and read it in the context of the original source. So I hope this is starting to make a little more sense and you can see how mining works